What is it?
Hello, welcome to The Essential Gamer. You're watching What Is It with me, Lee, and what it is Chernobylite, a first-person survival horror open world everything elsey game. Set in the most pleasant of backgrounds, the nuclear fallout zone in Chernobyl. Not everyone's first thought when it comes to a setting for a game, I'll be honest, but it's actually a bloody good one. And it's interesting to see how faithfully recreated the area has been, because it's pretty goddamn faithful. And it's pretty goddamn creepy as well. So Chernobylite has you travelling to the fateful area, the tomb, the sarcophagus, as it were, of the Chernobyl reactor, as a former professor who worked in and around said reactor. Now, things have changed. He's coming back a little bit later. Obviously, it's not a very hospitable place, and there's a tinge of strange about everything. It's not your typical first-person shooter. There's definitely some other stuff happening. You get to learn a little bit about the fallout and things like that, but then you also get to learn a little bit about what our character was doing while he was there, who he was doing it with, and what the people who have taken over the area now are up to with said fallout material. It's all a bit sci-fi mixed with real life, and it actually is the most powerful part of the game. The story is very well written, it's very well handled, and for me it's believable, and that's one of the main things I always look for in this kind of story, especially the horror, sort of survival horror game. And it's nicely presented. You get the whole of Chernobyl, which is surprisingly nice to look at. You wouldn't think that. There's some other stuff as well. There's some death and people getting dead. All gets a bit much at times. It's very dramatic, but enjoyable in a people in gas masks dying kind of way. But there's some issues with it as well, and we're going to get to those in a bit after I've explained a bit more about the gameplay. So, it's a first-person shooter, yes, but it's more of a stealth survival horror than it is out-and-out blast 'em up. So, you're going out into the fallout zone, you're selecting missions, you get, basically, time passes daily, so you pick a day, you wake up on your day, after you find yourself in your base, and you pick what mission. It could be a supply mission, it could be a food mission, it could be a go and speak to this person mission, whatever it may be, and these will give you items to progress in the game. Now, I'll get more into the base building and everything else side of things in a second. The actual missions themselves have you going on short-term excursions in quasi-open world areas, so quite big play areas of the desolated Chernobyl villages and surrounding areas. And these parts are the most powerful bits, because there's lots of things to find, lots of things to investigate, and lots of creepy bits and bobs that just tend to happen while you're minding your own business. There's a good variety of stuff that happens, mainly really weird shit that sort of messes with your brain a bit, all in these sort of somber, macabre surroundings, which really help to emphasise how creepy everything is. And you're not alone either. There's lots of people. Some of these people will help you. They'll be like tradesmen or sellers. Some of these are people that give you multiple choice questions and different routes to follow with them as to what happens to them and you, and building relationships and things. And other people are just characters that you'll meet along the way. They're very colourful. Some of them will join your team, some of them won't, some of them will tell you to fuck right off, which is actually quite pleasant, because you're not really ever sure what's going to happen while you're out scavenging for drops and different items that you can find here and there. All of these things sort of come together with a hint of creep at all times, so you're always on edge as you're out scavenging in the wastelands of a nuclear fallout zone. And obviously, because it's a nuclear fallout zone, there's places where there's harmful gases in the air, there's radiation zones and things like that. So there's quite a lot to take into account, as well as trying to avoid the enemy usurpers who have basically locked the area down. So there's quite a lot to take into consideration. You'll be picking locks and finding secret stashes, you'll be taking out enemies, you'll be completely avoiding people. There'll also be the odd creepy monster. Yes, didn't expect that. Wasn't very happy about it when I found out. But there was. Horrible creepy monsters. Everywhere. And the game actually ramps up in difficulty the longer you go on. So the longer the game takes, the more days that pass in-game, the more difficult everything becomes. So the enemies are, higher in numbers, they have better equipment, better weaponry. The evil baddie monster thingies get even tougher with every day that passes. And this is all part of the story, so I'm not going to give away too much more as to why this is happening. But yeah, you'll want to learn every inch of every area. So the other half of the game is a base building, almost micromanagement. What is it? I can't think of what it feels like. It feels like you're babysitting people, put it that way. So you have your team, you build your team. It's you and one guy at the beginning, and you build your team up to different members. Now, I've shown you some footage in this video from the first couple of hours, so this is sort of the basic beginning building. But essentially, you're building a base camp for you and the guys working for you, and you then have to manage their happiness, their relationship to you. If you reward the wrong person with the wrong thing, or you give someone food rations, because you're in charge of everything from food to comfort to their general happiness, and if you don't do the right thing, these people may completely abandon you. Great, they'll just leave, or they could die if you don't manage their food rations and things like that properly. Also, they could be driven to madness by sheer boredom. You've got to give them entertainment and comfort items. It's a different style of base management to what I'm used to. It was a nice different mechanic change, because it was a lot more focused on the people staying with me than the actual place that we were staying in, and everyone was happy. There's a lot of mind-bending moments as well. There's a lot more to the story and to later on in the game to the gameplay, where things that seem like one thing are definitely not, and a lot of other stuff becomes a psychological battle with your character, shall we say. Very interesting. But there's also quite a lot of graphical and programming errors, like this guy talking to a pole, or this guy that decided not to walk off but to just walk into the tree continuously. Or this guy, who's quite happily talking to you 1 minute until you press something, take him on a different dialogue tree, and then he returns in a very grumpy fashion. I don't know why he's shouting, I haven't got a clue. These bugs are quite prevalent, along with frame rate drops, along with general screen tear, and this really unsettling head bob mixed with these frame rate drops and stuff like that actually made it difficult for me to carry on playing. I know that someone else who played this game and actually recommended it to me suffered the same thing. I got about 6 hours in and I couldn't play it anymore because I just couldn't hack it. And this particular glitch where this guy got stuck had me trapped in this part of the game, one of the opening areas, and I had to restart less than 4 times. Which is a shame, because Chernobylite has a lot of things going for it. It's got atmosphere in droves. It's got a real heady story that sucks you in and keeps you there. It's got characters, great voice acting, and everything else right. So, ultimately, Chernobylite is a very good survival horror game, but not a very good game in the way that it's been delivered. There's lots of things that are wrong with it. There's a litany of bugs, there's too much wrong, and there's too many mechanics that are thrown at you throughout the playtime that I had. I played it for about 6 hours, and it seemed like every 40 minutes or so they were introducing some new mechanic, all the way up until things started to get really ridiculous, and then I was just almost entirely lost. Now, not to say that I didn't enjoy my time with Chernobylite, because I did. I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the acting, I enjoyed the atmosphere, I enjoyed the visuals when they weren't making me feel sick. I think it's a few updates away from being something that I would fully recommend. If you are into your survival horror games, or you particularly want to go and visit Chernobyl, I would recommend Chernobylite right now. It's a very good game. if you understand its limitations and what it's trying to achieve. What it's trying to achieve is small-term survival horror. If you're after that, go for it, because it's got everything that you want in piles and piles and piles. As always, if this video has been any good to you, please do like and subscribe. It helps the channel. I sound like a cheesy bastard saying it, but give me a thumbs up and a comment, you sons of bitches. Otherwise, this is a wasteland, isn't it? If you didn't like the video, tell me why, and I will go to Chernobyl, I will visit the sarcophagus, and I will likely melt down into a pile of nothing.